If you've ever wondered why it is the women in your life seem so perpetually unhappy, and you've wondered what the hell is wrong with her, well, you're not alone. I myself and many of the guys I've spoken to seem to recognize there's a lot of mood dysregulation in women. They run hot and cold. They seem to be anxious or depressed or both. I don't know how you can be anxious and depressed, but they seem to manage it. And have you ever wondered why the hell is this happening? Is this the way it's always been? Have women always been anxious and depressed, hot and cold, unhappy, no matter what they get? I mean, especially for Western women. I mean, Western women are among some of the wealthiest people who have ever walked the planet, for God's sake, you know? But still, none of that makes a difference. They're still perpetually dissatisfied and unhappy, and no one can figure out why. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Well, men, we are not the first generation to discover that women are emotional. In fact, that argument has been made against women since the beginning of time to prevent them from doing any number of things, from voting to having jobs, to having bank accounts, to just about you name it. Men have been using the emotional state of women's minds as a rationale to prevent them from being involved in society as a whole. So a lot of those arguments, have faded into the past, and probably for the best, because obviously, you can't continue to hold people down based on their behavior, right? But recently, say over the last 40 or 50 years, it does seem like things have been getting worse. And not only have they been getting worse in terms of women's emotional states and their anxiety and depression, but the rise of divorce as a central issue in marriage. If you go back even just less than 100 years, fewer than 1 in 10 marriages ended in divorce. I think it was actually more like 1 in 20. And every decade since then, that number has been increasing. Now it's kind of leveled off for the last 20 years or so, but it's leveled off at a really high number. I mean, like I'm talking 50%, very close to 50% of all marriages are ending in divorce. That's not a good statistic. Since the first words were put down on paper, people have been writing stories to pass along truths, lessons, ways of living. And one of them that has been repeated many, many, many times in all the cultures is the story of the 3 wishes. In most of these stories, some magical creature comes into the lives of some average people, usually a couple, a man and a wife. And this couple has done something to help this magical creature. And in return, the magical creature decides that they're going to give this couple 3 wishes. And inevitably, the man makes the first choice and makes a wish. And the woman is not happy with that wish. Something terrible ends up happening, and she wishes for something new, which is even worse. And something gets the situation gets far worse than what it was originally. And then their last recourse is to just wish for things to be back the way they were before they met the magical creature, if they're lucky. But the idea that wishing for too much will lead to your demise is a common theme in these stories. And another common theme is that the woman will wish for too much. Now, I'm not just going to beat up on women here, because that obviously goes back, 1,000 years, 2,000 years. It goes back a long, long time. So modern women have their own little magical creature. But rather than being a creature, I guess, it's more of a pharmaceutical. It's the birth control pill. And the birth control pill is magic because it has enabled women to live more full lives. It has given them the opportunity to have control over their reproduction. And as a result, they can now participate in sports, even professional sports. They can have go to college. They can have careers. Their lives are almost on par with men in many, many regards. But the magic pill also has a downside, just like the three wishes stories do. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I think that society as a whole does not like talking about the downside of the pill, because no one speaks ill of the pill. It's like an unwritten rule in feminism that no one talks shit about the pill, because the pill has so much power that they're afraid that if people start pointing out its shortcomings, that it might disappear, or that people might stop taking it, or that it might become problematic. And no one wants that, right? All right, let's get into some of the downsides of the pill. So what the pill does is it regulates women's hormones, specifically estrogen and progesterone. But it also has an impact on testosterone as well. And these three hormones, which are basically messengers throughout the body to cause the cells in the body to perform different tasks, make proteins, talk to the DNA, talk to the brain, all kinds of downstream effects from messing with these hormones. But these hormones have far-reaching physical, psychological, and even emotional effects on women. And most women don't talk about it. It's written on the label, and there's tons and tons of research that points out exactly what's going on. Pharmaceutical companies do everything they can to counteract any independent research that comes out, and feminist organizations do everything they can to downplay the significance of it. But you've got to be real here. You got to tell the truth, because this stuff is can be very dangerous, and not just physically dangerous to women, but emotionally and psychologically dangerous. And I think those facts are overlooked. So in past videos, we've talked a little bit about depression and anxiety with women. They are diagnosed at a rate of about 2.5 to 3 times as frequently as men for these conditions. And they get prescribed drugs at a rate of 2.5 to 3 times as much as men. It just so happens that the birth control pill has a significant impact on depression in particular, but anxiety as well. And the longer you take the pill, the worse it gets as you get older. So when women first start taking the pill, say as teenagers, for example, for the first 2 years that they're on the pill, these effects can be very, very dramatic. But as they get older, like into their 30s, 40s, and 50s, if they're still taking the pill at that point, the effects of depression go up even more. Women become more and more depressed. And it's actually interesting because the younger women, oh shit. What's interesting is that younger women seem to suffer from anxiety more, and older women seem to suffer from depression. As women get even older yet, they get into menopause, and frequently they will start using hormone replacement therapy to try to keep their bodies and their skin looking younger. But hormone replacement therapy can have similar effects and actually exacerbate the effects of depression on them. So that's one of the major emotional and psychological things that impacts women. But that's not even the worst of it. There's still much more. The pill seems to affect women's reward pathways, meaning that when they should normally feel good and happy about something that's happened in their lives, that they don't. They don't have that same sense of elation because something great happened. They feel numb, and the pill seems to exacerbate that to a large degree. And of course, if you're in a relationship with a woman and she doesn't have access to that reward pathway, it's very easy to see why she might be dissatisfied with everything in her life, why the fear of missing out would become exacerbated, why she would suddenly feel like her life isn't good enough because she's never feeling fulfilled in anything that she does. So having that reward pathway interfered with by the pill is a significant life quality issue that I don't hear anyone talking about. And I think that if it were any other medication, this would be front and center. You know, like with Ozempic, there's some issues about, the side effects that, make people feel like they have no reason to live. And that's started to make it to the headlines. But women not able to completely feel fulfilled in their lives because of their birth control pill, that one doesn't seem to make the headlines too much, which is really interesting because that sense of numbness, I think, would really impact a person's quality of life, which might make them feel like maybe they don't want to be here anymore, if you know what I mean. The next one is women, their ability to manage stressful situations or stress in general is compromised when they're on the pill. And this is a significant factor as well. So being in a relationship, being married, whatever, having a family, these are all stressful situations under the best of conditions. Now, if you take one of those people, a key member of the team, if you will, and you handicap them with the inability to manage stress, really, like, how is that going to turn out? You know what I mean? And then, of course, she's going to blame the man for all the problems because that's what they're going to do. But it's their inability to experience joy or manage stress. Those are two huge issues. And when I did some research on this, I was surprised at just how much research there has been done on these topics and how well it's known in the pharmaceutical field, but how little of this information is circulating out there in the world. Now, maybe it is, and I'm just not catching it. Maybe it's in some kind of ladies magazine and I just haven't seen it because I don't read those magazines, but it was shocking to me. Shocking. Now, here's the one that's going to really get you guys, because this is the one that really kind of hits you square in the head. When women are on the birth control pill, they are unable to experience attraction in the same way that they would if they were not on it. What I mean by that is, when a woman is not on the pill, she is drawn to high testosterone, I hate to say alpha males because that's kind of overused, but very masculine men. When they're on the pill, their attraction changes. So they are attracted to men with more feminine characteristics, whether that be in their personality or physically, but they are drawn to these softer characteristics. Now, at some point, if your woman goes off the pill, let's say you've been married for 10 years and she stops taking a pill, and suddenly one day she wakes up and looks at you and goes, I'm not even attracted to you. That would suck. That would completely suck. And I would have to imagine that that's happened lots and lots of times, because apparently this effect is a significant effect. It's not just some little, happens 1 in 100 times. No, this is a common problem. When women's progesterone levels are high and their estrogen levels are low and their testosterone levels are low, well, it messes with their ability to select a mate. And if you're that mate, well, you may have just married the wrong girl because she thought she fell in love with you and you thought, hey, this is great, I've got this terrific girl. She may not be involved, really in love with you. She's in love with what she sees in you through the haze of the birth control pill. Yeah, you don't want to be a pill guy, That's not the guy you want to be. On the physical level, the pill increases the likelihood that a woman will get breast cancer or cervical cancer. I think the relative risk increase on breast cancer is 30%. That's a huge increase. Now they say, oh, it's just relative risk, it's not absolute risk. That's still a pretty big increase. That's a pretty big increase. And with cervical cancer, it was like an extra 15 or 20%. And then I noticed in all the stories I read, they try to offset it and say, oh, but it helps you with ovarian cancer. It's like it makes you less likely to get endometrial cancer. It's like, wait a second. You can't trade cancer. We'll reduce your risk for endometrial cancer, but we're going to bump your risk for breast cancer by 30%. I don't think that's a fair trade. I think no cancer is the best way, But women don't seem to pay attention to this. And what's the kicker is even on the label, it says, you should not take this for more than 5 straight years. Yeah, 5 years. How many women just take the pill for 5 years then quit? No, they do it for like from age 18 to say age 45, you know? So we're talking a long time. We're talking like almost 30 years, you know? So, yeah, and the longer you take the pill, the more significant the risk of getting cancer is. And then even after they stop taking the pill, their risk is still heightened for 10 years afterwards. So imagine, you know, you're a woman and you take the pill for 30 years and then you go into hormone replacement therapy. Like you are just a poster child for breast cancer. You know what I mean? Like you are just the one that is asking for it. Not to mention that you don't even know if your personality is yours. So if you're out there dating women and you're looking for you know, a potential partner, you need to find out about birth control. Now, I like raw dogging it as much as the next guy, but if that means that I'm going to end up with some crazy, weird, psyched out woman who doesn't know whether she's really attracted to me, can't handle stress, and doesn't experience happiness in the normal way that other people do, then I'll wear a frickin' condom, okay? I will bite the bullet and wrap it up, because there is no way I want to risk my entire life with a woman just so I can get a little bit of, you know, a little more stimulation down there. Plus, at some point, you can always get a vasectomy. You know, once you've done whatever you're gonna do, you're gonna have the kids, whatever you're gonna do, just snip, snip. You know, it's a quick in and out kind of thing. I just had it done to poor old Debu today. But you don't need to go to that extreme. You don't need to go to that extreme. But yeah, so don't fall in love with a girl on the pill, because you may find that she doesn't really love you. You know, it might be that you're falling into a trap set by the pharmaceutical industry and feminism to lock you into a relationship that is inevitably going to blow up in your face. All right, you guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like and subscribe. And if you know some guy that's dating some girl and thinking about getting married, send this to him. Maybe she's on the pill. You might just save his life. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay healthy, and if you can, stay single.